absolutely brilliant to be back here again. I think this is our fourth assembly, something like that. No, it really is wonderful to be here, and we thought we'd try and pick up from kind of where we left off when we last came and gave an assembly just before our expedition. And we've got some videos. We're gonna chat for a bit. We really encourage questions throughout. Stick your hands up whenever. We will do a Q&A at the end, so if you want to wait till then, also that's absolutely fine. But yeah, hopefully we can make it engaging and entertaining. And I think before we started, I really just wanted to say a huge thank you from us, from the three of us, because the whole expedition was an amazing it was an amazing journey for us, an amazing adventure. But really, the support that we felt from so many people from around the world, but particularly from the academy, was just phenomenal. All the fundraising that was going on, during classes, reading out the ship's log and all of that, all the support was absolutely amazing. So really just wanted to start off by thanking everyone. So yeah, so where did we left off? I think where we kind of finished on the last assembly was we'd put it out that we needed some suggestions for names for our boat. And we had some great names come from the academy. We actually asked ChatGPT to try and do some visual representations of some of those names, and we thought we'd run through some of those first. So we had J.K. Rowing. Did anyone? I'm not sure who did that one. Put your hand up if it was yours. Haggis McChaggis. I quite like this one. I thought that looked really quite fetching. A tartan boat. We actually did have a little bit of tartan on the finished wrap, but I thought this was pretty good. Henderson, ChatGPT's trying to figure out. I guess it's got some elements of the academy there. I think maybe, but boating with Boatface. Yeah, that's a classic. I thought this was quite good. I like that ChatGPT's also made the boat going incredibly fast. I think at no point did we get to this sort of speed, but...
Who came up with Usain Bolt? Can you remember?
Up there!
Great!
Hey. Well done!
Well done. We were very close. Yeah, it was the second choice. It was very close.
It was very close. And one of my favourites, I think
Usain Bolt was maybe third on the list.
Yeah.
And then this one was second.
Yeah. Barry McWelchface, which ChatGPT. We did actually get two versions of this, and the first one was it looked like a real person, but it definitely wasn't Barry. So yeah, but no, of course we ended up naming the boat Rose Emily, and this is us at the start line. So we'd made it out to Peru, and this is the boat all in its wrap.
So I don't think we need to tell you much about the trip, because I think a lot of you followed it and we told you about it last time. But just to jog your memory, the Pacific, so we first had the idea about 3 years ago, and the Pacific it's vast. It's about 3 and a bit times the length of the Atlantic. The moon, actually, if you took the moon and put it in the Pacific, side by side, 4 and a bit moons would fit into the Pacific. Rowing across it non-stop would be 5 to 6 months at sea. No team had done it non-stop and unsupported. And by that, basically in one go, no team had been able to carry enough food to do it in one shot. There were teams that had done it with re-provisions along the way. But yeah, that was kind of the idea, and we actually shelved the idea. We kind of had it 3 years ago, and then we thought, nah, this is going to be too intrusive to our lives. But fast forward 6 months, and we were kind of in the Netherlands helping to build this full carbon boat, and not really sure what happened in those 6 months, but we obviously came around to the idea. So this is us. So after we were here, I think we were last at the school last December. I think it was just before you broke up for the winter term. This was us at the surf. Has anyone been to Lost Shore? The surf place? Yeah?
Couple at the top.
So we took an old life raft, the life raft we took across the Atlantic, which we had to replace it anyway for the Pacific, and we took it to the big kind of wave resort, and yeah, we asked them if we could inflate the life raft, put it in, and try and get into it, because a lot of the preparation, it's trying to imagine all the things that could possibly happen at sea and do everything you can to try and reenact them, it's exposure to those things, because that's kind of how I think with a big trip like that, that's how you kind of face your fears, really. That's how you overcome those fears, is that you try and expose yourself to everything you possibly can. So obviously getting into a life raft, that would be if the boat was caught fire or we had a really bad capsize, then you deploy a life raft, and that's where you get into and hopefully get picked up by a tanker or something. So it was actually really unpleasant. It was very cold at Lost Shore, and yeah, it was like 4-degree water, and it kind of just put us off the idea of getting into a life raft, to be honest.
Surf Centre were pretty confused when we turned up with a life raft. They were like, "This is usually surfing, not." But they did let us do it, which was good.
And then yeah, I think this is a very important operation going on here.
Yeah. So it's amazing the variety of things that you find yourself doing ahead of one of these trips. There's all sorts of different things, and there's too much to kind of go through. A lot of it is time spent on a computer, reaching out to companies and see if you can raise money, or thinking about how we're going to raise the money on the charitable side, preparing the boat. But one of the really important things is the medical side. We're out at sea for a long time. None of us have any medical experience. So our uncle thought he'd start easy, and he started with us operating on a banana to learn how to suture, just in case we had to stitch up a big wound, which luckily didn't happen. But there was, back in, I think, the early 70s, 71, 72, there was a guy, John Fairfax, who rowed across the Pacific in stages. And he actually got bitten by a shark and nearly lost his arm, which is quite remarkable. But he kept on rowing, amazingly. He patched it up. And so yeah, we'd read about this story and thought, gosh, I hope that doesn't happen to us. We need to learn how to suture. But we had all this training. Medical training was one aspect of it. We had this great big bag of prescription drugs. Enough to. I think we'd probably never need to go to a hospital ever again. We had all sorts of 5 or 6 different types of antibiotics. We had a thing called naproxen, which is it's a really strong painkiller that they use for first responders. Ambulances use it, and the reason we got it is because you're allowed to take it through customs. You can get a prescription and take it into other countries. And we set off, and we flew out to Peru. And you carry, for the trips like this, you carry your hand, all of those drugs, all of the prescription medicine inside your hand carry, because you want to be able to show the airport that you've got all the prescription paperwork, all that kind of stuff. And we managed to get through. We arrived in Peru at the airports, and it was almost immediately we'd walk through, waiting at the baggage reclaim, beeline, sniff a dog, towing a guy in a high-vis jacket. We thought, oh, God. Obviously, dog went straight for the medical kit. And we're like, oh, God, this is going to be a nightmare. And we open up the medical bag with the guy watching. And inside, Lachlan has put a banana. And obviously, you're not allowed to take food into other countries. So that was actually all they took off us. They weren't interested in the rest of the medical supplies that we had, thank God. But yeah, so the banana was a strangely recurring theme for us.
So something I thought we would talk about today and actually do a bit of a reenactment was the food. The food. So these are the actual food things that we ate. And you can see, this is us in the junior school kitchen over last Christmas, and trying to cook 1,000 meals. And I don't know if anyone's tried to cook 1,000 meals, but it's quite stressful. And we were there for maybe a week, and then we took it up to a farm near Dundee who freeze-dried berries. They're called arbuckles. And they were really helpful, and they helped us freeze-dry it. So you essentially extract all the water. So you cook it, you chill it, you freeze it, and then in this funny-looking machine, which is a vacuum that oscillates in temperature. All the moisture gets extracted from the food, and you're left with what is just completely dry. And then it's in these special packages, because what you do is you add hot water. So we're gonna, my glamorous assistant, can you?
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah. We're gonna get, they take about 6-7 minutes to rehydrate. We've got two meals here, and we're gonna get some people up to try them if you want. Barry's already volunteered, so is Mr. Sales. So we'll wait till they're ready. We'll wait till they're ready. So shh. We'll wait till they're ready, and then we'll get a few people up, and the winner gets a Tony's chocolate bar. Yeah, you heard it. You heard it right.
I think worth mentioning there that Mr. Welsh, he came and let us into the kitchen on like the 27th of December, and yeah, we were pestering him every day of his Christmas holiday. So I think big thank you for that.
Yeah. It was a really terrible Christmas present, not just for Barry. We also brought all of our girlfriends to come and help us cook 1,000 meals, which they didn't really appreciate, to be honest. But
this is the actual, not the exact stove, but this is how we would do it on the boat. So it's quite hard to imagine. It was always, the cooking setup was one thing that we just didn't quite get right. And if you can imagine, you've got like a stove going, boiling water, the boat's flying all over the shop. Ewan's trying to juggle the freeze-dried meals, waves are coming overboard. It's quite challenging, but the food was game-changing for us, because if you don't have homemade stuff, it's store-bought expedition meals. So those of you who've been on Duke of Edinburgh or about to go on it, you'll know the stuff. It's like boil in the bag. It doesn't taste great. And the other freeze-dried food that you can buy, it's similar. It doesn't taste great. It's really expensive. It's like £12 for one meal. And we needed 2,000 meals. So those of you that are good at maths can crunch those numbers. But so yeah, we made about half of our own meals on the basis that we hadn't done it before, and there was a chance it was all going to go off. Thankfully, it didn't, and it was pretty game-changing, because food's not only important for like nutritional values, the calories that we were having to meet. We're having to eat about 6,000 calories per day. To ensure that we didn't lose weight and lose muscle mass, and therefore go into a deficit and arrive in Cairns, a shadow of our former selves. And it also tastes so much better, so you're way more likely to eat it. And it made a huge difference to our morale.
so 2,000 meals. It's a lot of food. We had a huge amount of snacks as well. I think it was about 750 kilos of food, snacks, all sorts of different consumable things. We then had all the medical supplies, we had extra oars, we had all this, the spares just in case things broke. We had repair stuff just in case we, just try and fix things. And by the time we'd packed all of that onto the boat, we put it into the water, it was sitting really, really low in the water. It was, we couldn't have fit anything more on that boat. We did bring a set of bagpipes and a guitar and an accordion, which probably wasn't necessary, but it was a huge amount of kit, and hopefully this image that's really only a fraction of kind of what actually ended up on the boat when we set off.
But as with anything, you've got a deadline that you need to hit, and we'd set a deadline, and there was a weather window that was really important that we were within, because in the South Pacific Ocean, any time after October, you're into serious cyclone season, and we wanted to try and avoid being caught up in a cyclone in the South Pacific, and so we set a deadline. We worked really hard to get there, and we thought, We'd done the Atlantic, we'd done our time at sea. We'd done, by this point, we'd done 35 days on the Atlantic, we'd done maybe another 4 weeks of training. We thought, we're seasoned salty sea dogs, we've got this. And within a few days, Ewan and I were seasick. And it's, there's lots of things that are out with your control, and seasickness is something that can sneak up on you. And even if you've spent a lot of time on a boat on the ocean, it can be pretty relentless. And coupling that with pretty adverse conditions in the first half, as soon as we got off the coast of Peru, we had conditions coming from the southeast, which meant the waves weren't, if the waves are coming towards us, it's better because the boat surfs and you go fast and it's exciting. But if they're coming from the south or southeast, they end up just coming right over the boat, and the boat's tossing and turning all over the shop. And thankfully it passed after a couple of weeks. But it's a scary thing, seasickness, because if it's chronic, it's the kind of thing that would end an expedition like this. You'd have to hit your emergency beacon because you physically can't take on enough fluids or nutrients to sustain yourself.
So a bit about the kind of nuts and bolts of the day-to-day routine. So typically, ocean rowing teams, they'll row 2 on, 2 off, and you'll do that 24/7. We, as a 3, we did it slightly differently, but kind of on average, we were probably on the oars for about 12 hours every day. And then the night, we split it up into thirds, and then we each did a third of the night on our own. So overnight, you're rowing on your own, and then you get a 4 to 5 hour, well, sometimes more, maybe 5.5 hour max of sleep, broken up into 2 windows. So the sleep is quite challenging, and it's you don't really recover during the time at sea. You're always in a state of survival. But because of our good nutrition, as I think some volunteers are going to try, and keeping hydrated was a really big part of the day to day. But yeah, we were rowing through the day and through the night. The night you get these amazing stars, and the moon becomes, when it's a full moon, it's like daylight. It's like a kind of a fog light on the waves. But we mentioned before, a lot of the preparation. You're trying to do things to expose yourself to the things you're going to face during the crossing. There are things that you can't really prepare for, and some of that is the weather. The weather in the middle of an ocean you get much bigger waves. You get stronger winds. There's no land masses to get in the way of any of the weather, so it just blows over. We had some squalls you kind of get throughout. So every few days you might get caught up in a squall, and the wind suddenly picks up massively, and you might have really strong rain. But they generally pass over. We'll get onto it, but we did get some bigger storms later in the trip. And Jamie mentioned the cyclone window. We were a little bit unfortunate with that, in that we kind of got into some cyclonic weather a bit earlier than it was forecasted. But then there's also the wildlife. I think some of the things you see out in the middle of an ocean. This is it's a marlin. So these you'll probably know what they are, but they're huge fish. If anyone's read The Old Man and the Sea, there it is. I think it was the only book that Jamie had actually read until the age of about.
I still have
18.
passages of The Old Man and the Sea embedded into my memory that just come to me every now and then. Yeah, it was great.
And that was Mr. Mayor.
And we listened to it. We listened to it at the very end of our Atlantic crossing as we were arriving into the Caribbean, which was the same waters that he was fishing in. And you see the seaweed floating past, and you hear them talking about it on the audiobook. And we did it again on the Pacific. And it was shortly after listening to it that this absolute monster popped up. Lachlan and I were doing one of the live conversations at sea at the stern of the boat, and we were facing out, and we saw these 2 fins coming towards the boat. And we thought, oh God, there's 2 sharks coming at us. This is quite exciting. We haven't had a shark for a few weeks. And then we got the underwater camera, popped it in, took it out, had a look at the footage. It wasn't 2 fins for a shark. It was one massive marlin. And I don't think this photo does it justice, but it was huge. It was like the length of the screen. About it was built like a bull. And these things have a history of. We may have talked to you a bit about this before, but on the Atlantic in particular, they sometimes pierce rowing boats. They mistake. There's smaller fish that track under the ocean, under an ocean rowing boat. You're not going fast enough, really, and they seek protection under the boat. And the theory is that they then attract larger fish that then attract predatory fish like marlin, and they go for these fish, miss the fish, hit your boat, and put a hole in the side of the boat. And I don't know if you want to talk about the double layer.
Yeah, so the boat was carbon, so it was very strong, but just to avoid that happening. There's quite a scary photo of an ocean rower lying in his bunk, and a marlin struck the hull, and its tusk came through between his legs through the bed. So we wanted to avoid that, and so we had the hull underneath the cabins. It was double layered with about a 10 centimeter gap in between. We used that for storage, but that was just so that it wouldn't. That's the last thing you want to be worrying about when you're trying to get your kind of pitiful 2.5 hours of sleep. You don't want that to be on your mind. So I think, should we read the log? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah? Okay. So 2/3 of the way through, we mentioned it was before we got to Fiji and Tonga. We were caught up in an anticyclone. So it's a cyclone, but it's moving in an anti-clockwise direction. And so this I don't even think this wasn't the cyclone, but it was. We had kind of 3 days, 2 nights of really big conditions. So you're kind of gusting 30, 35 knots of wind, big waves as kind of tall as this room, and they're big. It's kind of big moving landscapes. They're not big steep waves, but they're spread over a couple of hundred meters. And those conditions, believe it or not, they can actually be. The boats they're designed like big surfboards, so they've not got a keel. So they're designed to stay on top of the waves, and you can actually surf them. So you can surf down these big waves and get up into the plane, and sometimes you'll be flying along at like 25 miles an hour, which is really fun. It's very exhilarating. But this storm, for some reason, every kind of 10th wave was just really irregular. So coming in from both sides of the boat, and we'd had on this the last day of this storm, we'd had 2 what's called a knockdown. So it's not the boat goes over, but it doesn't do a full roll, but it kind of goes over and then comes back up. And I'm gonna just to paint a picture of what it was like. I'll read. It's an excerpt from our ship's log on day 83, I believe. So we're about 300 miles east of Tonga, and we started the ship's log. Our dad's here today. He's never seen us present like this, so this is quite exciting. And we kind of did it for mum and dad, and then it built traction. I know it was read out in lessons. And by the end of it, there were lots of people reading the daily logs. So here's day 83. Salty and tired, we entered the final rotation of day shift as the sun went down. The forecast was for the wind to sustain at 25 knots until midnight, then drop off going into the 5th. Unbeknown to me, the day's drama was not over. My final day shift concluded at 1940. And I made my way up to the stern to swap with Ewan. I looked up into the darkness, waiting for a gap in the waves to clamber inside. A gap is not what I found. A 20-foot pyramid of water rose up in front of me off our port aft quarter. The wave was just about to crest, barreling at 90 degrees to the boat. I grasped onto the nearest thing, a camera pole, and braced. A wall of water hit. My legs gave way with its overwhelming weight and power, like I'd been spear tackled by some Tongan rugby player. I fell to starboard and the camera pole gave way. The boat reared violently in a tumble dryer of salt and spray. As my legs caught the lifelines, my weight was thrown head over heels and I somersaulted into the darkness. Time slowed. My body became limp and disorientated, no idea of which way was up or which way was down. It was then that I noticed the pressure around my waist. I looked up. My red head torch illuminated Rose Emily's transom. I was being dragged like a doll behind the boat. So I mentioned that we started writing these for mum and dad. So the day after we had this storm, I remember giving dad a ring. Just because before the log went out, we wanted to check in and just say we were all okay. And Dad is he's a writer, so he's written lots of books about whiskey, believe it or not. And I'll never forget his reaction. It was totally unfazed, and Dad just said, "Well, don't worry, it'll be great for the book." So that was Dad's reaction. But those are kind of the scary moments. But I think let's go on to the next. Yeah, do you want to say something about?
No, keep going. You're good. Yeah.
I think keeping morale was such a big part, keeping morale high, and how we did that, because that anticyclone, that was kind of the first of a series of setbacks, and you can see our course in the last third. We sort of, we were trying to make it south. So initially we were trying to get down to Sydney. The crossing was essentially, we initially got pushed north. And then, we were just constantly trying to make it south, trying to claw miles south so we could get to Sydney. That destination then moved to Brisbane because of the weather. And then we found ourselves after Fiji. We'd been given an ETA of about 17 days, so 2.5 weeks. At sea, things changed just like that. So within 24 hours, the forecast had changed. There was a big low pressure system coming in from the south of Tasmania, and that transpired to be a cyclone. So we had to kind of get out of the way of it because it was, 10-meter waves, like really big, scary conditions. So we then had to go up around New Caledonia, and it extended the trip. We went from 17 days to 6.5 weeks ETA within 24 hours. And that's just that's what happens. But I think keeping our mindset, keep looking for the positives, because the negatives were always there. And really, I think seeing the ocean amongst the waves. You're always going to get bits of bad weather, bits of good weather, but really the charitable fundraising and, people like yourselves supporting and helping with that. And in a weird way, the worse it was for us, the better the fundraising would be. So there was always a silver lining to the kind of extended time at sea. But that was really, that was a huge part, keeping and looking out for the others. It's very easy in that kind of environment to focus on yourself. But actually, I think it's much better to think, how are they doing? What can I do? Whether it's a chocolate bar or making a cup of coffee or whatever it is, making a freeze-dried meal. What can I do to make their lives a little bit better? And I'm sure that's very transferable to sport and the kind of ethos at the academy. Yeah.
So wildlife, we mentioned a wee bit about wildlife with the marlin earlier, but we had some amazing encounters with dolphins and whales and big rays, with sharks following us at a few points. Amazing bioluminescence. So you'd be rowing, and every kind of oar stroke was an explosion of light in these dark nights when the sun wasn't out, when the moon wasn't out. Sorry. And we had there was a lovely moment actually where Lachlan mentioned we got rediverted around New Caledonia, and it was a bit of a low point because suddenly 500 extra miles, six weeks to go. It was a real kind of blow, and morale was quite low. And then we ended up stopping at this island called LeFou and had this amazing encounter with a whale that came up to the side of the boat, and we were anchored, so it was probably only about 25 meters of depth, and this whale was right beside the boat, just playing in the shallows. And it was kind of jumping up, breaching, splashing down. It did a kind of headstand type thing where it was just sticking its tail out. And we didn't have that many points on the crossing where we did video calls with our partners. And I because we were on anchor, because we were kind of hiding from this storm, I decided I'd video call my girlfriend at that moment and got her on the phone and said, look, we've just seen this whale. And it kind of disappeared by this point, so I was kind of describing roughly where it was and pointing the camera at the horizon, saying it was just over there. And in that moment, the whale jumped out and kind of body slammed onto the water, but it was just too far away. So we kind of exploded like, oh my goodness, there's the whale. But she couldn't see it at all, so it was a bit disappointing for her. But no, amazing wildlife encounters. And then I guess the other side of it was the support that I mentioned at the beginning. So we had these amazing conversations with people like Ewan McGregor. A lot of the people actually, Lachlan didn't have a clue who we were chatting to. A lovely moment. At the beginning, we had a satellite message saying, right, guys, you're speaking. Lachlan read it out. He said, we've got Mark Wahlberg tomorrow. And genuinely, I don't think he had a clue who we were chatting to, which I think was probably actually quite nice. It took the nerves away. But we spoke to some amazing news outlets as well. We even managed to get on EA News. It was a brilliant interview. That it really was. But no, the support was amazing, and I think that was really it was an amazing thing for us to feel like we were part of this. Not only the three of us rowing, but the shore team working away, putting out all the stories, and then just everyone, Scotland getting behind us. It was really cool.
So that's a summary of our crossing from South America, from Lima, getting pushed north by the southeasterlies that were coming this way, and then spending months trying to get back down south, because Sydney's down here. And you can see our trajectory was kind of on course until we got to, that is just before Tonga, really. And then it started going a bit loop-the-loop, as you can see, and things started going a bit pear-shaped. This is where we had to hide behind New Caledonia, up in the islands behind there, and we had the whale encounter. And as Lachlan said, we started at Sydney, aimed for Brisbane, finally hit Cairns, nearly missed Australia. Thankfully, there's quite a big coastline, so we were in with a chance. The food is ready, so yeah, we're gonna do a taste test now. They don't have labels. We've got two different types of meals. One's veggie, one's meat. They don't have nuts, but anyone who's got allergies probably missed this one out. And who else? Mr. Sales, yeah. Okay, we're gonna have two others. We've got 2 forks and 2 spoons. Hugh. Is that Hugh? Hugh, on you come. Okay, one more. On you come. Yeah. Okay, so it's a blind taste test. Whoever gets either it right or the closest wins the chocolate bar. Yeah.
Tell them about chocolate bar.
So the chocolate bars we had, how many did we have? About 15. Yeah. We were actually gifted these by some girls at the start line, and we used them as 1,000-mile treats. So every 1,000 miles, it wasn't one of these wee ones, it was one of the bigger ones. We would divide it into thirds, and that would be the thing we'd look forward to for about 2 weeks, maybe.
And fresh coffee.
And fresh coffee from Cairngorm Coffee, if there's any coffee drinkers in the crowd. Anyway, so these were our treats. We still hold these in higher praise. So we're going to do, so simple, you're each going to get a spoon or a fork, and you're going to try a bit, mull it over, have a think about what it might be, texture. Talk us through your thoughts as you taste it, and then we're going to you're going to have a guess what it is, and whoever gets closest, is going to get the chocolate.
Why don't you join them up there?
So
you're gonna try it.
Yep.
And then you're gonna talk through, flavors.
I feel like you guys can handle the forks.
You have to guess what it is.
Thank you.
Get a rating out of 10.
And we'll get a rating as well. So we're gonna hear their thoughts, their feelings about the texture and the flavor, and then we want a rating out of 10. Okay? A rating out of 10. Now
I'm very bad at guessing foods. I might even mix up beef and pork, so I am failing.
That's totally okay. That's totally okay. There's a spoon. It's only just it's been used to stir. Okay, so it's fine. Okay, Lachlan, can you hold the?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Neither of you are allergic to anything.
No, I'm not allergic to anything.
Cool. Good.
I'm probably
Get the mic over here.
Yep.
It's quite hot. Okay, so don't burn yourself.
Closing my eyes.
Yeah.
Teachers thinking, oh goodness, health and safety. I hope this was covered. The gas stove.
Not too hot?
That is way better than what we get across here. Is that the wrong thing? That was the wrong thing to say. It's a free meal. It's an exo. I'd have to say that tasted very much like chili mince, but I could be wrong. Yeah. And I'd give it a good 9.5 out of 10.
Oh.
That's really nice. It's got elements of a sort of Friday night curry.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm getting chili, so I'm going to go for some sort of vegetarian curry with some, what's that green stuff, that sort of, no, not spinach, well, it could be spinach, it's kale, with some kale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vegetable curry with kale.
Vegetable curry with kale.
Okay, right. It's quite hot. I don't actually know.
I feel like I'm eating army rations here.
Give it.
Oh my goodness.
Give it a little blow. Okay, make sure it's not too hot.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So, what is going around? It looks like some form of curry, and Mr. Wells is right. I think it might be vegetarian curry. I think.
Okay.
It's probably wrong.
No, keep going. That's good. There's no wrong answers.
And what's the rating? What do you think?
7 out of 10.
Okay.
We've got 9 now.
Oh, no, I'm going, yeah, solid 9. Solid 9 for me.
9. Okay, that's wow.
So, better than what we guessed.
Okay, keep your spoon. Okay.
It's like curry. I don't really know how to describe it. It just tastes good. I'll give it like a 9 out of 10 because this is probably the best curry I've ever eaten. So I have not eaten much curry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely vegetarian. No meat in that. That's coming from a Safa. I'm going to go potato rosti. And it's 7 out of 10.
I'm not liking this at all. This is horrible. Yeah, I'll give you the vegetarian. I'm going to go for some sort of bean thing, probably a mixed bean, chili yuckness. Not, it's, maybe a 3 or a 4.
3 or 4.
Scathing.
I thought it was delicious, very nice. I give it probably a 9 out of 10. I think it was probably some bean dish, as Barry McWelshface said. It was some form of bean dish, but probably with a bit of pork inside of it as well. Yeah, bean chili.
Okay, and the final.
I have no idea what it is, except maybe some rice in there, maybe. And also, what was it was the chili. And also, I'm probably gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10 because I would like this for dinner, but I don't know if I want to eat this for a whole entire day.
Amazing.
Very honest feedback. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't quite remember the responses. I think we've got. I think we've got maybe a veggie curry with veg.
I said a rosti.
A rosti. Okay, rosti, and the first one was a.
I said it was a chili.
Chili. Okay, rosti and chili. So chili first, then rosti. And average score probably 8 out of 10 average score.
I peaked early, so I was
Peaked
a
early,
9
yeah.
first off, and then probably a 3 second.
Okay, yeah.
Veg curry with some, I've forgotten the green stuff again, kale.
Kale, yeah.
And then some sort of bean thing.
Okay.
Not
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
I've always known that curry is a good way of hiding ingredients.
Oh.
So I think this is probably a vegetarian curry, the first one with
Yeah,
kale,
okay.
or spinach, apologies. And the second one is a bean curry. And where this is being filmed, if you're listening, you need to start cooking this stuff.
I do not know a thing about this. Other than it's curry, it's chili, and it may contain some rice. I know nothing else.
Okay.
And and also I would rate it probably if I combine, if I have these two both in one meal, I think I would give it like an 8.5 because I probably would just leave the veg like alone. And then if I had rice, this would be so good. Like just have it on top of the rice. Of even more rice and like mix it and great.
Wow. Okay. Well, the big reveal. The first one was a lamb sag. So I'm afraid you two, nah, not even close. Lamb sag was the first. I think you were maybe the closest.
Huh?
And then, and then it was a veggie bean chili. So I think I think you might have taken it.
Hey!
Let's look. Okay, thank you. So we're gonna begin to wrap things up, and then we're gonna take some questions. We have got some more chocolate incentives. This was us arriving into Cairns after 139 days, so 4.5 months at sea. And yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. It was this moment out of the whole, 139 days at sea, cyclones, storms, terrifying monsters of the deep. This was probably the scariest moment of the crossing. And it's because you can't, when we sent the boat out to the start line, you can't ship flares. So we had to source flares in Peru. Now, it turns out Peruvian flares are pretty wild. And as you can see, Lachlan actually started with 2 flares and one of them exploded. And then this moment is seconds before the bagpipes started melting. And I still have them, and they still kind of work. I have some friends who went at them with a butter knife, and now they seem to work. But it was a pretty sketchy moment. But yeah, we think it was potentially worth it for the photograph.
Yeah, but I guess, of course, it was all really this entire journey, the focus for us, we were absolutely laser focused on trying to raise £1 million for clean water projects. And we were absolutely blown away by all the support. I don't think we quite believed we were ever going to get there. But before we actually arrived back in the UK, the GiveStar ticked over £1 million, which is over 40,000 people that will receive clean water for the rest of their life, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I think for us, over the next 3 years, it'll be working with our partner charity out in Madagascar to work through that. It's quite a large project. There'll be about 130 different boreholes and different types of water installations. And I think that was really what it was all for. And having that North Star for us, it gave us that thing to kind of aim for. And I think it gave us the daily drive. And when we were out there on those tough days, we had that to think about. So we are going to play a quick video. And it will it'll show you, I'm sure you've maybe seen a lot of it, but it's quite a nice edit that brings everything together. And it kind of brings to life, what it was like out there at sea. And then we'll open up and do a few questions. So enjoy.
This is a step into the unknown.
We are going halfway around the world, across the entire Pacific Ocean, 9,000 miles, non-stop and unsupported from South America to Australia.
Why we want to do it can be distilled down to purpose. It's doing something that ultimately is going to serve people in some way.
Here, a cheeky little spoonful of mango chip in it.
I don't want to be here.
I'm so excited for them on this massive adventure, but at the same time, it's a lot to deal with. Worry, apprehension, terror on a daily basis.
You're either rowing or you're eating or you're fixing something. And then you've got some really terrible sleep dotted in amongst it all.
It's been a drag. It's such a pain rowing when you've got wind coming to the side of the boat.
It's just so hot every day. There's no escaping.
it's things out of their control that could stop this, like their equipment breaking down. We're all just praying that that isn't something that happens.
It's a broader mission of trying to raise £1 million for clean water projects. It will impact so many people's lives, and that's what it's all for. We've got some good waves and a decent breeze blowing us in the direction we now want to go. Maybe the most challenging food of my life, to be honest. Any sharks? Any. Rojo bag, take this ring across us to Australia, near New Zealand, where man to go to Australia instead. It's already been the hardest thing any of us have ever done. Big blue wave came in and washed me overboard. That was really scary.
The biggest worry for me is that one of them is not going to come back. And that's not to say that I don't trust in their abilities. It's being in an environment that is so volatile.
The conditions are just not getting better.
You need to be very comfortable in the uncomfortable situation. If you're running a long ultra distance run, you can always stop somewhere and sit, but with this, there's never really a proper break.
We are really feeling quite exhausted. We're just going to keep soldiering on. New horizons just around the corner.
It's just like Scotland!
I can't even begin to imagine how deep they have to dig.
We're riding through 2 bits of reef. Well, look over there, boys. That's Australia! Enjoy those small moments along the way. I think something that we've learned is that every moment of darkness is always followed by light.
So I've closed the laptop there. Apologies. Right, I thought we'd do a few questions now, which...
Is your mic on?
I think so. No, that's definitely on now, though. Yeah, we'll do a few questions. We'll try and... I'm going to run around because we want to try and get it on the microphone, if that's all right. So, yeah, if you just want to stick your hand up, and I'll come to you. Who's brave enough? Right, let's start at the front, down here. What have we got?
What was the first thing you did in Cairns when you arrived?
The first thing we did in Cairns. The very first thing was our mum came charging down the pontoon with a massive bowl of fruit. It's one of the things you obsess about on a crossing like this. You know, nothing's fresh. So we had mangoes and watermelon, and then I think we had a pizza. Yeah, pizza was pretty high on the list for foodstuffs that we were dreaming about at sea. So we had fresh fruit, pizza, a coffee, and then clean sheets and a shower. And we just kind of spent, did cycles of that for days.
Amazing. Right, I'm gonna get involved up here. Here we go.
What did you miss most about Scotland?
Scotland, it's bizarre. So you actually, it's very blue out there. There's no greenery at all. So we actually had a few different people that were sending us updates of spring as it arrived and summer, and just like photos of trees and stuff, which is actually, that's weird, but it's really nice to come back and have a bit of that before we're kind of back into winter. But yeah, what other kind of key things about Scotland in particular do you think?
Probably cool weather.
It was very hot and humid for a lot of it. The last kind of couple of weeks, it cooled down a bit, but yeah, it's probably some cool weather and a solid bit. It's not specific to Scotland, but sleep. Sleeping more than 3 hours was
right. Okay. Who's next? I'm going to come down here. One up here. Let's go over here.
How long did the entire journey feel?
How long did it feel? Oh my gosh, it felt pretty long. I mean, yeah, we were there 139 days. That is it's about 20 weeks. But if you've ever been on a rowing machine for even 10 minutes, that 10 minutes feels pretty long, I can tell you. So when you're out there and you're rowing for a large portion of it, time can sometimes move incredibly slowly. But so the days felt really, really long. But strangely enough, the weeks passed by really quickly. And I don't know whether it was maybe to do with the sleep deprivation or what it was, but maybe it's not remembering the days before quite as well. You're cognitively maybe not operating quite as you are normally. So yeah, it's a strange experience. Time definitely kind of stretched in funny ways where, yeah, each day was very long, but the weeks were fast.
Any more questions? Any at the back? Okay, over here, yep.
How did you guys shower?
How did we shower? We didn't. So every about 5 days, we had to get in the water to clean the hull of the boat. There's marine growth grows on it incredibly quickly, and you get these, within a week, you get barnacles that are like a centimetre long. That creates a huge amount of drag. So we would be forced to get in the water maybe every 5 to 7 days, and we'd use that as an opportunity to wash. So we'd wash in the sea, soap up, jump in, and then just rinse off the salt water with fresh water, because the last thing you want on you is salt water. It just degrades the skin so quickly, and you get blisters and salt sores. So it was about once a week.
With baby wipes.
And then we'd use baby wipes. Yeah, baby wipes galore. You'd baby wipe, generally speaking, every night that you went to bed. Use a baby wipe just to take off any salt and things like that to help keep you clean. Because it seems like a small thing, but like bodily maintenance is massively important on a trip when you're on your own and you're there for such a long period of time. Because the smallest blister or cut, if it gets infected, could become quite a serious issue. So it's really important that you get ahead of that and prevent it before it happens.
So who would you like in your movie? Which actors are going to be you? And your dad.
And Dad.
Yeah.
So Dad's actually been in a film. He was in a lovely film called The Angel's Share, where he was asked to script consult on the whiskey facts, did that, and then Ken Loach was like, "You're perfect for the whiskey taster. You just be the whiskey taster." So Dad'll just play himself, I think.
He'll be doing some whiskey tasting. It'll be a bit random.
It'll be a bit of a random segue to the film. Mark Wahlberg said a few times that, at one point he said he was going to play all three of us, which I thought that was going to be, if anyone could do it, but maybe it'd be quite odd. I don't know.
I think for you, Ewan McGregor, probably.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Ewan McGregor's a legend. I'd take that for sure, yeah.
And I don't know any other actors. So.
And do you have any? Or...
it was brought up a couple of times that there are actually 3 Hemsworth brothers, and they look kind of similar, and they go in reverse order to age as well, so the oldest is the shortest. So potentially the most appropriate, but yeah, we'll see.
Have we got any questions up at the top, and then we'll read them out? Yep, shout out. What did we hate most about the trip? Right, so Jamie and Maclean, they definitely eat more than their fair share, right? There was several points where, particularly in the first half, where the peanut butter was consumed by one of them, particularly Lachlan, who would actually hide in the cabin and kind of go through it. And I would open the peanut butter tub only maybe 2 days after it had been opened, having had one spoon from it, and it was completely empty. And it was clearly these two.
It was different tactics. So Ewan is a hoarder. So he squirrels away his treats and his food as long as he possibly can. Half of his chocolate went off. Jamie just scoffs it straight away, and I'm kind of in the middle. So it was different tactics.
Yeah.
I would say, so obviously, as you know from the last assembly, our toilet, can anyone remember what our toilet was? It was a bucket. And, you know, we decided that time on the bucket wasn't counted as your time off. So generally, you know, it was kind of like bonus time. And Ewan takes a very long time on the bucket.
It is being timed when you're on the toilet is a horrible thing.
And we actually figured out that an extra 10 minutes per day.
Oh, come on, it wasn't 10 minutes.
We crunched the numbers yesterday, and on average, an extra 10 minutes over 139 days is 24 hours on the bucket. You got you got a whole day of rest on the bucket. Can you believe it?
Okay, any more?
How much time have we got?
We've got a couple of questions at the top.
Okay, yeah.
Couple quick. Yeah.
You go.
Were there any times that you felt you really wanted to set off an emergency flare?
Times that we wanted to set off the emergency flare. We did have one incident, actually, fairly early on. It was probably within the first couple of weeks, where it was the middle of the night, and I was rowing, and I noticed a light on the horizon. And we'd been warned by quite a few people actually in Peru that there are some kind of dodgy fishermen that they're not necessarily Peruvian. I think they I don't know where they come in from, but I don't know if they dabble in a little bit of piracy was what we were told. So I saw this light on the horizon at that night, and you know usually you row away, you're moving pretty slowly, and you can tell if it's coming towards you if the light moves position on the horizon, and you mark it with a star. And this light just kept on coming. And I was thinking, I mean, we were getting really close. It was probably only maybe a half a kilometer away, something like that. So I went into the cabin and checked. We've got a thing called AIS where we can check if other boats, if you're out at sea like that, you should really have your AIS on, because it informs other vessels of where you are, and it sets off alarms on big vessels and that sort of stuff. But they were completely, there was no sign of them on AIS. They didn't have that. So I was thinking, God, there's a pirate coming for us. And we'd brought within our flares, because we'd been warned about this potential piracy issue, we'd bought a small kind of handgun flare thing that you can use. I don't know what we were going to do, brandish it at them or something like that. But anyway, they ended up just passing us, and it wasn't a pirate at all. So, but I was getting. I mean, your mind plays funny tricks on you. So I was sat there terrified for about an hour, and then Jamie and Maclean woke up and were like, "What are you on about?" So should we do? Yeah.
What was your personal highlight from this trip?
Personal highlight.
Stepping off the boat was pretty good. We had around, so Marquesas was kind of the first waypoint that we got to. It was the first land we'd seen, and that was about halfway across. And we had a window of weather after the Marquesas, which the weather was really good. The skies changed. And it just, I don't know, it had kind of a magical feel to it. It just felt like a very special place to be, because it's one of the most remote places on the planet. So I've got some very nice kind of memories of sunrise and dusk are like they're the best parts of the day, because the skies are amazing, and the colors are incredible.
I think, yeah, going back to having to get in the water to wash the boat, I've got a very memorable moment of Ewan and Lachlan they were scrubbing the rudder, and we wanted to try and get some cool shots of the boat, quite high up. So I had to, attach a longer rope to my harness and dive down with one of our waterproof cameras. And there was just a moment of, you look around and it's just turquoise blue water as far as you can see, with light shining through. And at this point, the sun had just risen, and there was light shining through and cascading past the boat and into the water. And there were all these little fish swimming about. The fish that were following us under the boat had become sort of part of the family. And they were swimming around, and it was just this like moment of suspense, just floating there before I had to go back up for air, just being in complete awe of the environment that we were in and the beauty of it. And just how isolated and alone we were, but in an amazing way, not in a scary way, in one of those, I'll never forget this.
In about 4 miles of ocean as well.
Yeah.
Okay, should we do 2 more questions, and then I think we'll maybe wrap up. So let's do one down at the front, shall we? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh my God. I'm going to try and reach.
Why did you choose Peru as your starting point?
Very good question. So it's kind of, we had the choice of either doing, some people do cross the equator when they're rowing across the Pacific, but that means you have to go across the doldrums, and it's about 1,000 miles of really changeable bad weather. So we decided to go south of the equator, and just because of those currents, you've got the Humboldt current and then the equatorial current, it kind of helps you across. And the prevailing wind direction, it didn't transpire to be as favourable as we hoped it would be. But yeah, I think if we were doing it again, we'd start a little bit further north.
I have a completely different answer to that.
Okay.
I think I would start further south, definitely.
Yeah.
I think down in Chile would have been a better starting point, because we had very much southeasterly prevailing winds for the first half, so it would have been better to have a course where we were kind of going more with the wind. So I think it would have been longer distance, but I'd go further south. And the doldrums are definitely flat calm as well. But
yeah. I mean, that was the advice. For what we got, actually the doldrums probably wouldn't have been that bad.
It wouldn't have been fun, though. It would have been slog. Right, let's do one more question. Let's do one over here. Come on.
What are you planning on doing on next?
Big question. People keep asking this. For goodness sake, give us a break, for goodness sake. People keep thinking that we're going to row to the moon next, which is, I don't know why that keeps on coming up. But no, we're obviously, with the £1 million raised, it's a huge amount of money, which for the next, it'll be at least 3 years, we'll be working with our partner charity out in Madagascar. And that's really quite a big project. So that'll be quite a large bit of our focus for the next few years. We are going to keep the boat. So the boat's coming back to Scotland hopefully quite soon. And I think maybe some smaller trips to start with around Scotland will give the girlfriends a bit of a break, I think. Yeah.
There will be probably more big trips to come, but not for the next little while.
I think just on that same vein, I think, as Lachlan says, there definitely will be something more. I think we've learnt a huge amount and gotten a huge amount from taking on a big challenge that is underlined by purpose and what that brings to you personally and to other people. I think, it's doing something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you love, that ultimately does some good for other people. And we've found that an incredibly rewarding thing to do, and we would encourage you all to take something on like that.
I think, probably the closing note for me would be, I think we said it last time, but believe it or not, we were actually in this hole not that long ago. We may look very old now because we've done all this. So the sun is very bad for aging. But we left the school, I left school 9 years ago. And I don't think none of us were particularly, I don't think any of us were in the top sets for anything. And we weren't particularly gifted at sport, and but I think what these trips have shown us is that anyone here, if you've got, it doesn't need to be rowing. Ocean rowing is very specific, but it doesn't matter what it is. Just set the goals high and put in the work, and anything's possible. It sounds cheesy, but there you go.
Well, I think we'll close there, but I just want to say again, thank you so much for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you this morning. I'm sure we'll be back if we're invited again. But have a great rest of your day, and we'll be around a wee bit probably later on. But thank you again.